Welcome back to Navigational Mind. I'm Dr. Toy Oyelese, and, well, this one's for anyone who's ever felt stuck inside their own skull, you know? That feeling where you're pushing one way and something else is pushing back. Maybe you call it self-sabotage, or just feeling off, or heck, maybe you don't have a name for it. But today, we're calling it friction. And I want to start off by saying, friction isn't a sign you're broken or failing at this thing called being human. Actually, it's the engine that tells you you're alive, responding, and, hang on, I'm saying that too fancy. Let me put it this way. Friction is data, not disaster. I see it all the time, in my clinic or chatting with friends. Folks come in believing that feeling pulled in two directions means they're flawed. Like everyone else has this calm sense of purpose, and they're the only one who's, a little scrambled. I've got to admit, I believed the same thing as a young doctor. Picture this, new country, new hospital, and already I had this accent that made half my patients furrow their brows in confusion. Part of me desperately wanted their acceptance. The other half just wanted to stay true to who I was. There were days I'd go home wondering, why can't I just be one person? But here's the truth. That tension wasn't a glitch in my design. It was my mind's way of telling me what mattered. Acceptance and authenticity, both important, both pulling, both teaching me about myself. So when you feel that internal tug-of-war, don't rush to stamp it out. Ask what it's saying. Friction is information. It's your inner system letting you know there's something alive at the intersection. That's the promise for today's episode. We're going to dig into why friction happens, and just as importantly, how to actually read it rather than fighting it. Alright, so where's all this friction actually coming from? I'm going to slow down here because this bit trips people up. Broadly, there are three sources. First, the conflict between your internal residents, those parts of you that we talked about in the last episode. Remember? The mind as a house, each room with its own resident. Sometimes autonomy is saying, leave me the heck alone, I need to explore. And intimacy is replying, hey, don't you forget about me, I need connection. Or industry might whisper, I need to build, to achieve, while trust pipes in, hang on, is it safe to jump in? These kinds of push-pull tensions, they're natural. It's not about picking the right resident, but understanding why they're both raising their hands at once. The second source is rhythm mismatch. This is one I always used to overlook, still do honestly, when I get too busy. Sometimes you're trying to force yourself into a new phase, maybe chasing growth when your mind's in a season of contraction, or expecting sudden clarity when really your system's asking for stability. I mean, think about nature. Trees that try to bud in January usually end up worse off, right? Our inner rhythms work the same way. Pushing for clarity or progress in the wrong season just adds to that grinding feeling inside. And then there's what I call directional fog. This one's slippery. When you don't have a clear internal compass, no orientation, no sense of which way's forward, friction pops up everywhere. I'll never forget, early in my career, after a rocky day in the emergency room, I realized even picking dinner felt like moving through thick fog. Every decision felt heavy. That was my mind saying, hey, toy, you don't know what direction you actually want to go, and until you do, everything's going to feel harder than it should. Sometimes the issue isn't the conflict or the rhythm, it's just not being able to see where you're headed. Now, what do we actually do with all this friction? Well, first, not all of it is bad. There's productive friction, the stuff that clarifies your path, brings buried truths to the surface, actually helps you move forward. But then there's unproductive friction, And I know this one well, because I've spent many sleepless nights caught in it. Those endless mental loops, the rumination, well, maybe if I, that just turns round and round until you end up paralyzed. How do you tell the difference? Mostly by the outcome. Productive friction leaves you with something new, a bit of clarity, or at least a better question. Unproductive friction, you just end up tired, with zero movement. So, working with friction starts with identifying what's actually happening inside. Who's in conflict? Is your autonomy fighting your trust? Or is it industry versus intimacy today? Then, check your psychological rhythm. Are you in a mental spring, lots of energy and openness, or in a quieter, more contracting phase? Next, check for directional clarity. Are you pushing ahead when your mind actually has no map? And if you find there's no direction, don't try to blast past that with sheer willpower. Stabilize first. No one builds a house when the foundation's still moving. Let me give you a concrete example. I had a patient, let's call her N, who was torn between chasing a big promotion at work and really being present with her family. Every time she tried to move forward with one, she felt guilt or insecurity about the other. Together we unpacked who inside was at odds, her need for ambition, her pull toward connection. We figured out her system was actually in a stabilization phase. It wasn't the right time for a bold leap. Only then did setting small, steady intentions move her forward, instead of leaving her stuck. End of the day, friction is your mind's way of flagging down your attention. Not to punish you, but to ask you to notice what's alive and in motion. When you read friction well, you understand your whole system better. Next episode, we're heading into the territory of direction, how it actually emerges, and how you learn to trust the signals your mind is sending. But for today, maybe ask yourself, where is your mind generating friction right now? What's it trying to say? Sit with it. Sometimes just listening is the biggest step.